basically, after reviewing the background of GHF 201 in terms of the basic science and the clinical data from the 3 patients, the goal of GHF in APBD is really to transform this into a drug development program and subsequently to submit these findings to the relevant authorities for approval. Now, to accomplish this, it is essential that the process is conducted properly, cost effectively, and aligned with patient needs. Well, basically, obviously, unlike this cartoon. Now, this was and is the company's objective, as well as its commitment to the APBD community since its inception. So, how do we plan to achieve this? Now, since the audience, as I can see in this conference, is diverse, I would like to briefly outline the necessary stages in drug development, because I'm sometimes getting questions from patients about this. So, first step is basic research, where molecules are screened based on various criteria and various insights to identify potential hits for disease model. Unfortunately, there is no guarantee that such effort will eventually yield positive outcomes, as it is frequently seen in other projects in the healthcare space. The second stage is the preclinical phase, focused primarily on toxicology studies, both short-term and long-term, typically involving cellular level tissue as well as animal models, in most cases of 2 species. These 2 stages usually take about 3 to 6 years, but could also be even more. Once it is established, then the drug is, I would say, reasonably safe, and the benefit outweighs the risks. We can then move to the clinical phase, which involves human trials. And by the way, preclinical studies often continue in parallel with the clinical trials. So the clinical step consists of 3 phases. Phase 1 is conducted in healthy volunteers to assess the drug's safety in human. Phase 2 and 3 involves patients examining both efficacy and safety over time, starting first with small groups, then with larger groups. And these stages can take years to complete. And many times, due to emerging data, there is a need to repeat steps or conduct additional studies. Now, after completing these stages, the data are obviously submitted to the authorities for review and hopefully with the approval, which could also be a lengthy process in itself, something like 1 or 2 years. So the whole, the time that it takes from the starting the development till you get to the market can be a lengthy program, which goes up to 15 years or so. But this is an example for a traditional drug development process. However, our development pathway is different, as we are targeting rare disease. This gives us several opportunities to expedite the process. First of all, there is a pressing need for solutions of life-threatening diseases without treatment, where patients continue to deteriorate, creating a sense of urgency. Now, regulatory bodies are also aware of this, and like the FDA, they allow faster approval pathways for such drugs if meeting some strict criteria. Since rare diseases typically involve small patient population, clinical trials are smaller in scale, involving fewer participants, and have a shorter follow-up terms. Now, all these factors combined with tax incentives and fee waivers for companies like us developing such treatments that may reduce the financial burden. Now, in certain cases, when safety risks are minimal, there is even a possibility of conditional approval, if not all criteria are fully met, but this is very, very rare cases. Now, the next slide illustrates the timeline differences between the drug development for rare diseases versus conventional development, thanks to the factors that I just outlined. So, as I said previously, it usually takes 15 years or even more to develop a regular drug. But as you can see, for orphan diseases, it can get us to the market within less than 10 years. In our specific case, we are currently in the preclinical stage, which I'll discuss shortly. Our goal is to develop the treatment for APBD within a time frame that I would say falls at the shorter end of the average orphan drug development timeline. Now, as mentioned previously, the preclinical stage is complex and can take years. However, in our case, the fact that we already have clinical data from 3 patients, even as Professor also said, it's a small number of patients, it's not a clinical trial setting, it still has significant weight in planning this phase. This will be, I would say, advantageous as we present the preclinical results, which are promising so far before advancing to the clinical phase. Another critical, I would say, another critical aspect of drug development is the production of the drug itself. Now, this stage of synthesizing the API, or active pharmaceutical ingredient, or the drug substance, through the development of the final product, which is called also drug product, could be also very complex. For example, we must ensure that there is a consistency of the product, whether produced in small scale or large scale, and meeting the what's called the GMP, or the good manufacturing practices, until you reach the point where you start the human trials. We are in an advanced stages to ensure that this will not be a limiting factor as we enter the clinical phase. And here you can see the example of how our drug substance look like and the drug product. Now, in the next couple of years, our focus as a company will be pushing the development forward from preclinical stage to the clinical trials, while ensuring GMP production of the drug substance and drug product. This is an important shift of what we do so far from the academy to work according to the FDA regulations. We will leverage all available regulatory opportunities to advance the process in the most efficient way. And at the same time, we are committed to strengthening the IP of the company, as well as expanding both organically and in terms of activities to exploring potential collaborations, particularly for additional indications. Now, from the beginning, I've shared with you the differences between the development of a regular drug versus an orphan drug. Beyond, I would say, the goodwill of everyone involved in the positive results so far, I think nobody will be surprised that financial resources are definitely required to support these efforts. Now, just to give you in context, the development cost of standard drug can reach hundreds of millions, sometimes even more, of dollars, while orphan drug development costs tend to be lower, and that the exact figure really depends on the disease urgency, whether there are approved treatments, and obviously based on the outcomes. In our case, we are working to advance our activities cost effectively and while adhering closely to regulatory guidelines, especially those of the FDA. We are currently in round A of funding, which intended to carry us through the completion of phase 1 and preparation for the pivotal trial. We've already secured a significantly portion of this round, and I would like to take the stage and encourage anyone who can help connect us with suitable investors, both for this round and beyond, to reach out. I would say that this is the time. Next. Great, thanks. So I've mentioned that we are a team made up of, I would say, incredible individuals, experts in their field, starting with our research partners, Dr. Or Kahlon and Professor Miguel Weil, who researched and discovered the molecules that currently make up the company's portfolio. Professor Lossos, well known for his work in the APBD field and beyond, together with Ms. Anat Mordechai, who is the coordinator in the Compassionate Use Program. Professor Garti, the owner of LDS, which developed for us the liquid formulation to be given orally to patients, is also recognized and a well-respected figure in his field, both locally and globally. And of course, last but not least, the GHF team, led by the Schneider family, Shlomi and Adi, who I would say with their spirit of entrepreneurship and boundless optimism, worked together with other patient families to promote the founding of the company and the development of treatment options such as GHF 2.1 for all APBD patients worldwide. Thank you.